I have like a fucking pimple right here that won't go away. It's really fucking with me. But that's not what we're talking about today. So what we're talking about today is Windboat. So Windboat's a tool that's been gaining a ton of traction recently in the Linux community. It's been really blowing up. And the reason why is because it's actually pretty damn cool. It's the entire idea is it's supposed to allow you to actually run Windows programs inside of Linux, which immediately a lot of you guys are like, oh, geez, it's just another, compatibility layer like Proton or Wine. No. So this actually takes a different approach. It's not a compatibility layer. So what it claims to do is run Windows apps on Linux with seamless integration. Seamless. We'll get to that. But basically what it does is it runs Windows inside of Linux, inside of a Docker container, and then it remote connects to it. It uses free RDP and it remotes in, and then it actually gives you access to the application. So from an engineering perspective, it's pretty damn cool. It's pretty smart. But I would not recommend using this just yet because there are actually security flaws with this that I noticed that really need to be considered. And then there's also, especially there's problems with just usability that need work. So to start, you can't actually run any Windows app on Linux here, as some people are claiming, because if you try to run any kind of video game or any kind of software with with DRM, so like any kind of software like modern competitive video games, for example, they won't run. And it's because they detect virtual machines and they actually block them. So you're still not going to be able to run those Windows specific video games or whatever that are blocked by anti-cheats. This isn't going to be your solution there. But certain tools, like I've seen Adobe software seems to apparently work, and apparently it actually runs and you can actually use it. And I don't know about AutoCAD and certain other, more proprietary specific software like that, but it does seem like you can actually run. I mean, getting Adobe like that on Linux is pretty cool. It's not actually running on Linux though. A lot of people keep saying run, Windows apps on Linux. It is, if you want to get technical, it's running on Windows under Linux, and then you're just remoting into it. But if you don't want to argue the semantics and the shit like that, the end result for the end user is that you get a Windows app on Linux. So it's pretty neat. Now, saying seamless integration is a bit of a problem here, and I'll explain why. So the YouTuber, Some Ordinary Gamers, who I really enjoy, you should definitely go check out his content, watch his video on this, because it's pretty neat. He definitely dives into this more than I do here. I'm trying to focus specifically on my critique and feedback here of the security stuff. So if you really want to get a full deep dive and get a full explanation of what I'm even talking about with Windboat, then you can go check it out here. But let's just watch something real quick. So he tries to open a file. Look at this. So this isn't just you. Look at these artifacts. So all of these artifacts and these visual problems are actually a result of the fact that it's remotely connecting in to a virtual machine, and that's how it's displaying that way. So I'll actually even show you, he actually made a video where he tried out the Comet browser, which is its own dog shit in of itself. But in this video, he actually showcased a portion where he was looking at some tile cards here. So I just want you to pay attention to the tile cards that his mouse hovers over here. So look at that animation there. Look at how laggy that kind of slide animation there of the effect. Look at how laggy that is. That's not the video. That's not, I'm running this at 720p 60 FPS here. And you can even see the video at the top is running really laggy as well. So there's visual performance problems here, and it's noticeable. This isn't minor. So this is pretty fucking rough, I'd say. And it's a problem with the way this is done. So again, it's very smart from an engineering perspective, and getting it to where it looks like you're just running a Windows app under Linux is pretty neat. But the problem is that with RDPing, and then also it's completely virtualized. It's in a virtual machine, so that means you're virtualizing all the hardware. So you're using a virtual CPU, a virtual GPU. You're not actually using the bare metal hardware. So when they say on their website they were talking about native performance and all this stuff, I think they mentioned somewhere on their website, yeah, making it feel like a native experience. It's really not going to feel that way. I feel like that's kind of false advertising, because you're going to get artifacts, and it's also going to be laggy as shit if you're ever trying to do any kind of GPU intensive process. So like Mudahar showed in his video, you can launch Adobe products, you can launch Photoshop, but you know, if you the second, or you can launch a video editor or something like that, but the second you try to do any kind of high graphics intensive shit like exporting, rendering video, like the second you're trying to do any kind of actually high end visual editing or anything like that, you're going to definitely be dealing with some visual artifacts first off, and then second off, just lag in general. And that's really kind of a problem that they need to address here. And let me be clear, I would not be wasting my breath talking about this project if I didn't think there was insane potential. I actually think there's fantastic potential for this project. I'm really excited about it because this would actually, listen, having options is fantastic. I never think having a single option is good. So that's why having multiple options where you, the user, get to choose is amazing. And I love Linux for that. I've talked about it before, how I think when Linux has a problem in terms of usability for non-tech savvy users, but at least this is definitely a step in the right direction. It has the right idea, because even the interface that they use to that you manage this whole thing through is designed to be super damn simple and everything like that. Now, I know actually the initial setup process of this tool is actually kind of difficult, you know, for a less tech savvy user, but still, it's you know, this is definitely a step in the right direction. It just needs work. It is a early version of the project. This is still in beta. It's not even a full, like, on release yet. So, you know, understandable, but that's why I'm making this video, is to give my critique, my 2 cents, and hopefully the developers will address the issues that I talked about here. You know, the whole RDP thing is really tricky. The whole visual artifacts and all that's tricky, because RDP is just like that. And also they're kind of using a technology that wasn't necessarily designed for this, like RDP tools and stuff like that. You know, they're going to have visual artifacts. You know, they really need to try to figure out a way to address that. I know it's difficult, but if before they can really consider this like a stable, full, ready to go product, they need to work on that a bit and you know, fix the visual problems there. Then they also need to figure out GPU pass through. They should definitely consider having their tools having the virtual machine pass through the GPU. So that way you get bare metal GPU performance, and you're not dealing with the whole virtualized GPU nonsense where it's super laggy and everything like that. There's another major problem with this tool that seriously needs to be addressed, and it's actually twofold. And one is actually really should be argued and really should be thought about, because it could harm usability. So the first one, and honestly the most important one in my opinion, is that as far as I understand, the virtual machines that this runs in, the Docker containers, are rooted Docker containers. Rootful, whatever the term is, they have their Docker containers with root level privileges. So you see, the thing about that is the Docker container has full root level permissions on your system. And that's really dangerous, because if there's any kind of, if the Docker container, possibly it escapes the Docker container, there's any kind of VM escape nonsense or whatever, then it would have full access to your entire system. Now, it's not just in that more specific niche case. It's actually the fact that the Docker containers that this runs has full access to your file system, your host file system. So it passes that to the applications you're running. So the kind of scary thing about that there is whatever software you're running inside these virtual machines not only has root level privileges of your Linux system, but then also has access to all of your files on your host system on Linux. So that's really dangerous, because if you do run any kind of malicious tool, you're fucked. If that tool is compromised or anything like that, there's big potential there for a nasty hack. So they really should address that and kind of tighten up the security there. Now, also, you have to provide your own Windows ISO file. So they should probably just, you know, to kind of improve the integrity, they should definitely consider adding integrity checks using hash verification to make sure that the ISO file you pass into it is actually verified as a legitimate Windows install, because some people will try to probably pass like a custom Windows ISO or whatever. But, you know, that's honestly, they don't even need to do that. That's kind of just like a little bit of a buff to security. They don't have to do that. But even just to ensure total compatibility and everything else, that would be probably something worth doing, I think, just to improve the security of this overall. But to focus on the important things, I wouldn't consider this seamless just yet, as far as a full seamless experience of running your tools. Now, the saying that, you know, this can run any tool, this can run any Windows software on Linux, you're right. Technically, it can. Well, actually, not even, because again, DRM, video games, stuff like that. But it can run most Windows tools, true, but can it run them well? Currently, not yet when it comes to more graphically intensive tools, but this is definitely a major step in the right direction. So, you know, again, I think they should address these major security problems, and I think they should work. I believe they already are working on a way of improving the latency and the visual artifacts and everything that you deal with if you're going to be using a remote desktop connection like that. But otherwise, I mean, it's pretty nifty. And you know, also kind of just the fact that you're still relying on Windows. You're still running Windows on your system. Most people switch to Linux to totally cut the cord with Windows, and now you're still just running Windows on your system. So it's, you know, it's kind of a tricky thing there. You know, definitely something that needs to be considered. But, you know, I'm optimistic. I think that this could be pretty neat. It's definitely got crazy potential. It's not a bad idea at all. I just think they need to work through this. I think they really need to kind of work on it, improve it, and address the problems that it has. And then, you know, we'll see where this goes. Now, should you be actually running this yourself and testing tools and everything? Don't do it. I would say don't start doing it yet. Any YouTubers that are like showing this off to their audience is like, ooh, shiny new thing, run any tool, you should try it, do it. It's like, you know, I feel like that's kind of, they shouldn't be doing that, because it's the, again, the security risks and the fact that it's early and everything like that. If you ask me, I think what you should do if you're a Linux user considering running this, hold off at least until the first stable full-on release of this, and then if you want to give it a shot, consider going ahead with it. But bear in mind the security risks that you take whenever running this kind of tool. Any kind of brand new tool like this is going to have any security flaws. So it's like, for example, the risk of a supply chain attack was actually extremely high for Talon, the Windows debootloader that I and the Raven development team work on. Now it's now it was that way because Talon relied on downloading a ton of tools and stuff. It doesn't anymore, but you know, back then the design of Talon and the way it operated and everything wasn't great. And it relied on downloading and running a lot of tools and stuff. And, you know, again, there's just security risk there. Any kind of start of a tool like that is always going to have like these jank ass original problems, you know, when it starts. But if the developers keep working on it, and it seems like there's pretty rapid development of this going on, it seems like the developers are pretty dedicated to this, that they're really making a really cool tool. So I just wanted to give in my 2 cents as someone who's kind of more security minded, and I want to give my feedback. And I actually am really looking forward to this project. I'll come back to it someday whenever it has its full stable release, and I already plan to make a whole video really delving deep into Linux and stuff specifically. So, you know, by then, if this is available, then I'll absolutely check it out. So that's about it. See ya.